Today for Aseret Adibros, the 10 Commandments, we will try to shed some new light from the Sefer Nesiveo, and we will add stories and Meshalim. We will try to look at the 10 Commandments from a new angle, different observations. We start with the first one, Anoichi Hashem Elokecha. Kodesh Baruch Hu says, I am your Lord. I am the God who took you out of Egypt. Anoichi in Hebrew also means myself, my own ego. Don't make Anoichi. Don't make your own ego Hashem Elokecha, your own God. Don't start bowing down to yourself, to your success, to all the money, fame, and fortune, the respect that you have accumulated and received. It's not about you. It's all gifts from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's all gifts, everything that we have. Don't make Anoichi, don't make yourself Hashem Elokecha, your God. But perhaps other ideas as well. How do we bench? How do we daven? Do we do it quickly? Do we just run through it while we're cleaning the table or after we ate? We're saying the few words for the blessing. We had time to sit and eat comfortably, slowly. It's very healthy. You can't rush. But we don't have the time to say thank you to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the food we just ate. And how about our davening? Do we daven with kavana, or do we daven because one needs to daven in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the evening? Because there's something that has to be done. Do we understand what davening is all about? The Navi Ishaya says, "Meloi chol haaretz kevoidoi." The full air, all the earth is full of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's glory. He is all over. Would we daven or bench if we thought HaKadosh Baruch Hu is right there next to us and watching us? No, of course not. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu is there. Meloi chol haaretz kevoidoi. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is found everywhere. In Adorim Chav Beis, the Gemara says, "Kol hakoyes, afilu shchina eina chashuva kenegdoi." Somebody who gets angry, gets upset, even the shchina is not important to him. What does that mean? How can you say such harsh statements? Will we get really upset if the mayor was standing right next to us? Probably not. If the boss? I don't think so. But nobody's around, so why can I get upset? Dad, you know what that guy did to me? I should get upset. You know what he did? But Melech Ol Haaretz Kevoidoi, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is all over. Anoichi Hashem Elokecha. You wouldn't get upset if somebody, a distinguished person, was standing next to you. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu is there at all times. So if somebody does get upset, he proves that Chazal's statement is correct. Afilu Shchina Eina Chashuva Kenegdoi. Even the Shchina is not important to him. Because you did get upset, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu was standing right next to you. So why didn't you think about that then? And that is the meaning of the following pasuk where it says, "Avu ha'ish asher ya'aseh pesel u'maseicha to'evas Hashem v'sam basater." The pasuk in Parshas Ki Savo says, "Cursed is the person who makes an idol for himself," and then the pasuk says, "v'sam basater," and he hides it. Why? Because nobody would make an idol if people are watching. This is an idol that I just created. Does it have any power? No, of course not. So he makes the idol, but he hides it because he's embarrassed. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu is there. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is all over. We said, the Navi Ishaya says, "Meloi chol haaretz kevoidoi." His glory is all over. It's all over. It fills the land. It's all over. He's right next to you. He's watching your every move. So how are you not embarrassed? Therefore, the person is cursed. So we don't have idols. That's something from days past. A long time ago, nobody has idols today. That's wrong. Our idol that we bow down to is the dollar bill, the dollar sign. Oh boy, do we have idols. Avu Raish, curses the person who makes this idol and he hides it. No, money to me is not important. No, I don't hold my money. It's not important. It's just a mean to get. No. Say the truth. Let's acknowledge it. Do we bow down to money? To people who accumulated money? Are we impressed by very expensive things? Or by people who own very expensive things? We have to make sure not to be defined as those people that the pasuk calls, people who make for themselves idols. and put them away somewhere. You stash them. In front of people, we don't say that we're impressed by money or we're impressed by rich people. No, but that's just his success. I'm very happy for him. Are you really happy? Or are you just envious and you wish that you would have the same? Anoichi Hashem Elokecha, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I am your God, and not the dollar bill, and not any currency, no matter where you live. Anoichi Hashem Elokecha, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is our God, and Meloi Chol Haaretz Kevoidoi. A person spends a lot of money. He bought a house and he bought a new door. That door was thousands of dollars. Most sophisticated new door. Got to put a mezuzah. Sure, it's a mitzvah. So he goes to the store, and the guy tells him, "You want a mezuzah? Well, I have a very good mezuzah, a kosher one. It's $65. What? $65? Are you crazy? It's just what is it? Just a scroll and a little ink. How did you get the $65? Let's make it 40. We have money for everything, but when it comes to mitzvahs, to the service of Hashem, you had money to spend thousands of dollars for the door, but you argue about a few dollars for avodas Hashem, for service of Hashem, for a mitzvah. We have money for everything, but when it comes to the service of Hashem, suddenly we find out that the bank account is just totally empty. That's a lie. Lo yelecha Elohim acherim al panai. Don't have other gods. Don't bow down to other gods. What is other gods? Elohim means koyach, power. Don't attribute any power to other sources. There is no power but HaKadosh Baruch Hu and oid milvadoi. HaKadosh Baruch Hu ve'en biltoi. There's only one God, and only He runs the show. He is the only power, and there are no powers other than HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yeah, not even your boss, not even your banker, not even the most sophisticated person, smart person, doctor, whoever it is that you know that you think can save the day. Only HaKadosh Baruch Hu can save the day. Don't make other gods. Don't attribute power, strength, might to those people who you think may help you. Trust HaKadosh Baruch Hu and only HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Sometimes we're embarrassed to do mitzvahs. What are people going to say? What are people going to think? My neighbors, my friends. There's a Baal Shuvah. He learns. He works. Good man. When he goes to his parents, he takes his yarmulke off. He's embarrassed. His friends will say, what happened to you? His parents will say, who are you? Oh, you became like them. He's embarrassed. He takes off the kippah. What would happen if Avraham Avinu was embarrassed? Of his parents? Of his friends? They all made fun of him. Avraham Avinu is called Avraham Ha'ivli because Ever in Hebrew means side. The whole world was on one side and he is on the other side. He wasn't embarrassed. He did the right thing. In the first siman, the first halacha on Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch, the code of Jewish law. What does the Shulchan Aruch start off with? Perhaps the severe halachos of Shabbos, how to keep it. Maybe other halachos. Taras HaMishpacha, kashrus, what to eat, what not to eat. No. The first thing the Shulchan Aruch says is Al Yisbayesh Mipnei Hamal'igim Alav Be'avodas Hashem Yisboach. Don't be embarrassed from those who make fun of you when you want to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Jump out of your bed in the morning, go to shul, do everything right. With enthusiasm, do it with zeal, and it doesn't make a difference what people are going to say. Al Yisbayesh Mipnei Hamal'igim Alav. Don't be embarrassed from those people who make fun of you because you want to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But the pasuk says, Lo yelecha Elohim acherim al panai. Don't have other gods al panai, which sounds like it says right in front of me. Al panai. What does that mean in front of me? Where is HaKadosh Baruch Hu? So that we said before. Meloi chol haaretz kevoidoi. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is all over. In other words, don't sin. Don't make any averos. Don't transgress anything in front of me. And where am I? All over. In other words, don't sin. Anger is also a sin. Anger is compared to heresy. Like Gemara in Shabbos Klufei says, Anybody who gets angry, it's as if he's Oived Avodah Zorah, as if he serves other gods. And that again seems like a very harsh statement. So I got angry. So what do you want from me? It's only natural. So the great ethical master explained, why does a person really get angry? Because things didn't turn out the way he planned, the way he wanted, the way he hoped they would. But what does that mean, that things didn't work out the way you wanted? If you really get upset because something didn't work out, according to your plan, it means that you deny the existence of a Kodesh Baruch Hu, that he makes sure that everything happens. He and only he makes things happen. If one gets upset, he denies that this was with Hashgacha Pratis, divine presence. And if that's the case, what is the difference between a person who denies a Kodesh Baruch Hu's existence and a person who serves other gods? They both deny a Kodesh Baruch Hu's existence. So if a Kodesh person truly believes that a Kodesh Baruch Hu is found right next to him, and everything that happens is because Gzeras Elyon, a decree from above, from a Kodesh Baruch Hu himself, how can you ever get angry? Lo yelecha Elohim acherim al panai. Don't have other gods al panai, right next to me. Why? Because I am all over. So don't get angry. Don't get angry. Don't take Hashem's name in vain. Bracha levatala, a blessing made in vain. In Shavuot Lamed Tes Amud Aleph, the Gemara says the whole world trembled. Nizdaza. The whole world shook and trembled when HaKadosh Baruch Hu said these words. Lo yisiso Hashem Hashem Elokecha l'shav. Don't take Hashem's name in vain. Don't use it in vain. The whole world trembled. Do we tremble? How do our brachos look? What do they look like? Do we have the time, the appropriate time to say Hashem's name with the proper intention, with the proper kavanah? No, I'd really like to bench. I'm just sorry. I just don't have the time. I have to run tomorrow. What about a bracha in vain? The severity of a bracha in vain. It's a terrible thing to take a Kodesh Baruch Hu's name and say it in vain. How do our prayers look like? Our brachos, we say so many of them. There was a big tzaddik who was about to die. And from Shemayim, they did him a favor. They came to him in a dream. They wanted to awaken him so he should correct what he does, so he shouldn't be sorry for one mistake that he always makes. In his dream, he goes upstairs, and the angels lead him to the heavenly court. On the way, he sees black angels wearing black, and they're on big carriages attached to black horses. The horses were made from fire. And each of these angels is carrying a huge black box. And there were so many of these carriages and horses and boxes. So this guy asks the angels who are leading him, who are these angels and what are in those boxes? And the angels tell them, well, these are the Avelos. In each of these boxes are all the sins of a certain person. His name is Reuben, the son of Shimon. And that was him. And then a ton of these angels passed by. He couldn't even count them. There were so many. And finally, after they all move out, there's two horses, white horses, carrying a white carriage, and two angels sitting on that carriage, holding a tiny little box, a white box. So this guy says to the angels who are leading him, and what is this box? And they tell him, this is the box of mitzvahs that Reuven performs. These are his mitzvahs during his lifetime. And then they bring him to the heavenly court, and he comes in, and all those angels came for him. And he says, well, you got to be kidding. There's a mistake here. Yeah, it is my name, but you must have the wrong guy. There's many people with the same name, Reuven ben Shimon. There's many people like that. You know, my whole life, I sit and learn, and I work, and I don't transgress any averos. You got to be kidding me. There's some kind of a mistake. Maybe you can look again, check the records. And they tell him, no. This is you. But he says, no, but what about all my blessings and all the prayers? Where are they? They don't fit in that little tiny white box. And they tell him, oh, yes, they do. They're not there. They all fit in those black boxes, those million black boxes you saw before. Because when you used to say Hashem's name, you don't have proper kavanah. And saying Hashem's name without proper kavanah is not only donish, it's nothing, it doesn't count as a mitzvah, it's an aveira. You said Hashem's name in vain. So not only did you not daven or say blessings, you actually transgressed all those times, millions of times, and they are all found in those black boxes. Yes, there were a few times that you had the proper kavanah. Remember once when your wife was sick and you davened with fervor. Oh, that was a prayer. You once wanted to be accepted to that new job. You davened and you asked HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please, let me be accepted. There was once a Yom Kippur where you had a true awakening to do tshuva, but other than that, all the names of Hashem that you used in vain, millions of times, they're all counted as averos. We got to make sure that when we say our bracha, when we daven, we have the proper kavanah throughout, but especially when we mention HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name. Zochar es Yom HaShabbos lekadish, or remember the Shabbos day to keep it holy. In Shabbos Daf Yud we learn the Gemara that the Kodesh Baruch Hu said to Moshe Rabbeinu, Lech emor leYisrael, go and tell the Jewish nation, Matana toiva yesh li beveis kenaz, I have a great gift that I want to give them. I keep them in the place where I keep all my treasures. It's really special. Shabbos Shema. The name of my gift is Shabbos. I'm going to give you something very special. It's the biggest diamond you've ever seen. If we receive a big diamond from a king, from a human king, will we ever consider just throwing it on the floor? Perhaps even stepping on it? The Chafetz Chaim says in the name of the Yahweh Dvash that it's impossible for a person not to stumble on Hilchos Shabbos and to violate Shabbos if he doesn't know all the Hilchos Shabbos perfectly. And that can only be done by learning and reviewing, Too many times we rely on our memory from who knows how many years ago. When we first learned Hilchos Shabbos, do we really remember everything? And do we really remember everything correctly? Some things that we learned 10, 15, 20 years ago, we may not remember perfectly. We got to constantly learn and review. Would anyone attempt to fly an airplane without proper training? Observing all the mitzvahs of Shabbos is so much more complicated than flying an airplane. So much more complicated. And therefore it requires a lot of learning and reviewing. One gets ready for Shabbos. How long does it take? Well, to get ready for a wedding, which only lasts 3, 4, 5 hours, one usually gets ready in a few months. You need a few months, 3, 4 months. You need to buy the suit, the band, the invitations, the flowers, so many things involved. How long do we get ready for Shabbos? The wedding just lasts 3, 4 hours, but Shabbos, it's 25 hours, but it's much more than that. It's a spiritual wedding with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's an eternal wedding with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. How long should we get ready for that? And what do? An hour or two before Shabbos, everybody rushes. People go crazy. You got to make sure the food is ready, the house is clean. They're yelling at each other. That's not how you get ready. For a wedding with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shabbos Amalka. Shabbos Queen is coming to town, and that's how you're getting ready. You got to do a little more than that, because Shabbos is so much more important. 1,000 times more than any human being. Take the time. Slowly. Make sure you're ready, both inside and outside, for the Kedusha, the holiness of Shabbos. Transgressing Shabbos is not just driving on Shabbos or striking a match. If one doesn't observe Shabbos with a proper Kedusha, during Shabbos. That's also called transgressing Shabbos. If one's speech is of mundane matters on Shabbos, that's called Chilul Shabbos. He violates the Kedusha of Shabbos. One can eat and drink and sleep on Shabbos. But if he does that, L'Shem Shamayim, for heaven's sake, he's Mekadesh the Shabbos. He actually sanctifies the Shabbos. But doing the same things, eating, drinking, and sleeping on Shabbos, just because you want to fulfill your earthly desires, that's a transgression. You're violating Shabbos. That's not why Shabbos was given. Shabbos was given to us in order for us to rest and to charge ourselves spiritually, to learn Torah, to sit with the family, to sing Zmirot Shabbos, doing the same activities, reading, eating, drinking, or sleeping, but without any Kedusha, without any intention of moving up the spiritual ladder, is a transgression of Shabbos. How do we sit at the table? Do we dress appropriately for the Shabbos, for the Queen, for the Kedusha that it brings? In the time of the Arizal, there was the great Mekubal Rabbi Yisrael Nachara, and he had a beautiful voice. And when he used to sing the Shabbos tunes on the table, there would be hundreds and hundreds of doves that would sit on his rooftop. And then one Shabbos, it was so hot, so he took off his coat and he folded his sleeves, and suddenly all the birds just flew away. And the Arizal said to him, "You should know, those weren't regular birds, those were angels. And they used to deliver the special tunes that you sang directly to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but once you sat in an untheistically fashion, the birds flew away. Put your coat back on, and the birds will come back," and that's what happened. We are not Rabbi Yisrael ben Nachara. We are not at that level, but how do we sit on the Shabbos table? We can sit without our coats. But how do we sit? What do we talk about? And Shabbos is a time for tznius, for kedusha, for tahara. Shabbos is a time to speak words of kodesh, words of Torah. And then, as we learn in Shabbos, Kuf Yutes of the Gemara, two angels escort a person back home on Shabbos from shul. One is good and one is not so good. But when everything is set for Shabbos, and the house feels Shabbosic, and there's the air of kedusha, the good angel blesses that this should be so for the following Shabbos and thereafter, and the bad angel is forced to say Amen. So we have to prepare for Shabbos. We have to make sure Shabbos will look like Shabbos should. Shabbos is a bris, is a covenant between Klal Yisrael and us, and the Chafetz Chaim explains why. What is so special about Shabbos that it's a covenant? We don't find that if somebody doesn't put on tefillin in the morning, he broke the covenant. No. It's a transgression. There's a mitzvah that he has to fulfill, and he didn't. But why is Shabbos called a bris between us? Said the Chafetz Chaim, a person goes to the store, maybe he goes to the laundromat, and he gets there and the place is closed. So what does he think? Well, I guess the guy's on a little break. Maybe he's sick. I'll come back tomorrow. He comes back tomorrow and the place is still closed. I guess the guy went on vacation. But if you go there and there is no sign, the sign is off, you figure the guy is out of business. He went under. He's out of business. He's no more in the laundromat business. If somebody doesn't observe Shabbos, he basically announces, I'm out of this. I'm out of this one. That's it. I left. Shabbos is a covenant between Klal Yisrael and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Ki oisi beni uvenechem, because it's a sign, it's a covenant between me and you. Shabbos is so special because it means you're still in. You're in the business. And speaking on Shabbos should be different than the way you speak on weekdays. Everybody knows on Shabbos sometimes one comes to the other and says to him, it's Nis Shabbos Yeret. It's not appropriate for Shabbos when I'm about to tell you, but the car that you wanted to sell me? Sunday at 12 noon, I'll come over and perhaps we'll do that deal. It's not for Shabbos. But if it's not for Shabbos, then it's not for Shabbos. And it's also not for Yom Tov. Keep it for weekdays. Chazal learned from the pasuk V'daber davar in the Navi that the words you say on Shabbos should be different than the words you say on weekdays. Shelo Yeheh Diborcha b'Shabbos Kediborcha b'Chol. The Gemara says that in Shabbos, Kuf Yud Gimel. We have to elevate everything that we do and everything that Shabbos is. That Shabbos is for, to make sure Shabbos is separated in our minds and in our deeds. Shabbos should be different in the way we prepare for it, in the way we talk during Shabbos, the way we sit, and the way we behave, and the way we think, and the way we dress, and everything around the Shabbos, those holy 25 hours, should be so special and should cause us a spiritual elevation. Chazal say, there is a Zohar in Tikkunei HaZohar, Tikkun 48, page 85. The Zohar says, Haiman the Kais b'Shabbos, Keilu Uki de Nura de Gehenna. One who gets angry on Shabbos, it's as if he lights the fires of Gehenna. Again, very harsh. And the Siphorim explain, the fires of Gehenna rest on Shabbos. Gehenna doesn't work on Shabbos. But one who gets angry on Shabbos, it's as if he lights up those fires. And lighting a fire on Shabbos is a melacha deoraisa. It's one of the 39 melachos you're not allowed to do. So you're never allowed to get angry. But getting angry on Shabbos? Heaven forbid. Taking away the Kedusha of Shabbos, that's a Chilul Shabbos. Violating the Kedusha of Shabbos. So who does Shabbos belong to? Well, the Pasuk in Parashas Emor says, Ele Moadei Hashem. These are my Yontefs and my Shabbases. It's mine, says Hashem. But in Yeshaya, Perek Aleph, Pasuk Yud Aleph, the Navi says, Chodshechem u'moadeichem san'an nafshi. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says about those people who behave improperly in Shabbos, I hate your Yontef, I hate your Rosh Chodesh, I can't stand it. I hate it. That's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu said. But who does it belong to? HaKadosh Baruch Hu calls it my Shabbos, my Yontef. And in the Navi, it's called our Shabbos in Yontef. Says the Tzifona, one who behaves like he should on Shabbos, maintaining the Kedusha of Shabbos, HaKadosh Baruch Hu calls it my Shabbos. It's my Shabbos, and thank you very much for behaving the way you're supposed to with my gift. But one who doesn't, who takes everything for himself, he eats, sleeps, rests, does everything that other people do, but he does it for himself. So then HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, it's not my Shabbos anymore, it's your Shabbos. You took it for your purposes. And that I can't stand. I hate it, says the Kodesh Baruch Hu. We should always be zoiche. We should be able to use those special 25 hours that come back every single week and move up on the spiritual ladder closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu through the holiness, the purity, the kedusha and tahara that we can attain in these special days, special hours during the Shabbos. Honor, respect your father and mother, and you'll have long days. You'll live a long life. In the Zohar HaKodesh it says in Bereshis Kaf Vav that the Shechina HaKadoshim is called Abba. That's strict judgment. And it's also called sometimes Ima. That's Chesed and Rachamim. That's the midah, the trait of mercy and compassion. So when it says, respect, honor your father and your mother, it means respect and honor HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It just means when you see strict judgment in the world, and then you see mercy and compassion, don't think there's two entities upstairs, Khalila. No. Honor and respect HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Know that it's all coming from one. There's only one HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Enod milvadoi. Honor and respect, strict judgment, and the character of mercy and compassion, because you should know it's all coming from one place. And the person, if he does honor his real parents, will be zoiche to arichus yamim, to longevity. But why is that? A wife comes to the husband and she says to him, can't stand your parents. It really bothers them. I don't want them here. And the husband tries to argue, he tries to convince her. But she says to him, listen, this is wrecking our time together. These are our best years that we should spend by ourselves. We should spend together. We should go places and we should be able to do so many things. This is really ruining it for us. Says the Kodesh Baruch Hu, don't worry about that. Don't listen. Honor and respect your parents at all times. And if you're worried about losing time, don't worry. I'll give you extra time. You'll have plenty of time to spend with your wife and do everything you wanted. I'll give you arichus yamim. I'll lengthen the time that you spend here. Don't worry. That is why this reward is said specifically for kibud avim. Don't worry, you're going to sacrifice for them, but I will give you extra time. Measure for measure. You took from your time. For them, I will give you more time. Somebody once came to the Chazon Ish. His mother was hospitalized in Jerusalem, and in the hospital, she was about to die. So he runs to the Chazon Ish, to Bnei Brak, and he says to the Chazon Ish, I wanted to ask you a question. My brothers live in the U.S. My mother is going to die now. There's a halacha that in Yerushalayim, if a person dies, you don't leave him overnight, you bury him immediately. Now, what's going to happen if my mother dies in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 hours? My brothers won't be able to make it to the funeral. So my question to you is, can I or should I take my mother from the hospital in Jerusalem and move her to a hospital in the Tel Aviv area? That was his question. And the Chazon Ish told him, if you already came all the way here to me, why don't you ask me that I'll bless your mother? That she should have a full, complete, and speedy recovery. The guy was so embarrassed. Chazon Ish says, what is her name? And her mother's name. And the man told him. He told him the name, and then he left. He went back to Jerusalem. When he got home, they told him that his mother was already released from the hospital. She's back home. He was preparing her halvaya. He was preparing her funeral. She was back home preparing dinner. If a person sacrifices for his parents, he will merit 2 things. When his parents do go upstairs in Shamayim, they will daven for him, and they can make a lot of noise upstairs on his behalf. And the second thing, if a person sacrifices for his parents, his kids will do the same for him, because that's what they saw at home. But if one doesn't do that, let him not expect that it should start from his kids. It's not going to start by them. Yaakov Avinu, when he gets ready to meet his brother Esav, he is afraid. He gets ready for war. Why was he so afraid? Who is Esav? A Rasha, a wicked person. Does he have any schutz upstairs? What is Yaakov Avinu so afraid of? And Chazal tell us, there was nobody in the world who used to fulfill the mitzvah of kibudav, honoring parents like Esav did. Before he came to meet his father, every single time, he used to put on a shtaimel. He used to put on his best clothing. I'm going to meet my father. Yaakov Avinu was afraid of the schus, of the mitzvah, of respecting a father. That's why he was getting ready, and he didn't know what's going to happen when he's going to meet Esav. Esav doesn't have too many mitzvahs, but he does have the mitzvah of kibudav, and its value is so great. Loi tirtzach, don't kill, don't murder, don't take a life. Well, I guess that doesn't apply to us. We're not killers. We don't murder. Perhaps. But in Baba Metzia, the Gemara says in page Nun Ches Amud Beis, Hamal bin Pnei Chaveiro Barabim Keilu Shoifech Damim. A person who embarrasses his friend publicly, it's as if he took a life. It's as if he spilled blood, he killed. And the Gemara explains, when a person is embarrassed, he becomes pale, his blood leaves his face, and he's all white just like a dead person. More than that, the Gemara says in that page that there are 3 people who go down to Gehenna, but they never get out. They never go up. Everybody else goes there for a little cleansing time, a very hot one, but ultimately they get out. But there are 3 people, 3 Averos that they don't come out. One of them is Hamal bin Pnei Chaveiro Barabim, one who embarrasses his friend publicly. So maybe even by mistake a person said, well, you're a fool, you're lazy, you're fat, you're stupid. That is considered Hamal bin Pnei Chaveiro Barabim, embarrassed his friend publicly. It is so harsh. The Gemara says, a person who calls his friend a bad name loses his share to the world to come. Klal Yisrael has a share in the world to come, as the Mishnah says in Sanhedrin. But there are some people who don't have it anymore. They lost it. One of them is one who calls his name a bad name. But perhaps there's another idea, and lo tirsach, and don't murder. Imagine, Eliyahu Hanavi comes, and he tells us, you see this old guy, 90-year-old guy. Poor guy, he only has one more minute to live. And after we get this information, we see a young guy, 20-year-old guy comes, and he kills that old man. Is he considered a killer? Well, absolutely. But he only took 1 minute. 1 minute. What's 1 minute? 1 minute is a lifetime. There is no difference between killing 60 seconds or 60 years. What can one do with 1 minute? So much Torah, mitzvahs. Every word of Torah is a mitzvah. How many words can you say in a minute? Perhaps 200. A hirhur tshuva. A thought about tshuva. It's worth so much. It's valued so much. But the killer says, wait a second, don't kill me. Yes, it's true, I took a life, but I am only 20 years old, and I took 1 minute. You're going to take 50 or 60 years from my life if you kill me now at 20. Is that fair? Absolutely. We have no idea. We can't value 1 minute of a person's life. It's eternity. You can cling to HaKadosh Baruch Hu forever because of that minute. But even more than that, imagine Eliyahu Hanavi comes downstairs and he tells us, you see this 90-year-old guy who only has 1 minute to live? I know, says Eliyahu Hanavi, that he's not going to fulfill any mitzvahs during that minute. And then the killer comes and takes his life. Is that considered murder? Absolutely. Why? Because the killer took a minute of free choice. Bechira chopshis. Who knows what you can do with a minute? 1 minute of free choice is also valued so much. We can never underestimate life, what life is really worth, and it doesn't make a difference if we kill 60 seconds or 60 years. But what do? What do we fill our minutes with, our seconds, our hours, our days with? Nonsense, perhaps, all kinds of stuff that we really don't need. What do we think about? Our activities. There will be a guy who goes upstairs after 120, he goes to the heavenly court and they tell him, you are a murderer. And he said, me? You got the wrong guy. What are you talking about? I'm a pacifist. I never touched, I never even killed a fly. I'm not a murderer. You got the wrong guy. And they'll say, no, you are a murderer. Remember that time where you just sat for 4 hours just staring at the window? And then there are 2 days later where you're just people watching. And then there was a time where you sat in the kitchen and for 2 hours slowly you opened up a pistachio after a pistachio after a pistachio, wasting your time. You took a life. You took a life, and that is called murder. God forbid we shouldn't be considered murderers. We should fill up our lives with Kedusha, with Tahara, with Divrei Torah, with Kedusha-dik thoughts, not just deeds when we can't do a mitzvah. Think about it. Think about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Think about the love that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has for you and the love that you're supposed to have for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Be thankful to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for everything you have. You can fill up your life, even when you're stuck somewhere without a book, without an ability to do a mitzvah. You can fill up your life with Kedusha, with Tahara. Chalila, God forbid we should take a life. Because upstairs they only count the time that a person spends here doing the right things, matters of Kedusha, of Divrei Torah, that is considered a life. All the time that we waste on nonsense is not considered life, and therefore the pasuk says, "Ve'atem adveikim ba'Hashem, chayim kulchem hayom." Those people who cling to HaKadosh Baruch Hu are only those people who chayim hayom, those people who are alive today. How are you alive? When you fill up your life with Kedusha. Then you will merit to cling to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to be close to Him for eternity. Lo tinaf, don't commit adultery. Well, that also doesn't apply to us. Perhaps it does. In the Gemara in Sanhedrin Pei Aleph Amud Aleph, the Gemara says, a person has a store, And his friend comes and opens up the same store, the same grocery, right across the street. That is considered asher times eshes re'ehu. He defiled his friend's wife. That is considered adultery. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Torah tziva lanu Moshe morasha kehilot Yaakov. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Moshe commanded us on the Torah. It's inherited to us from generations. Morasha kehilot Yaakov. But the Gemara says, Al tikrei morasha ela meorasa. Don't call it morasha. Call it meorasa. That the Torah is engaged to us. We're married to the Torah. We find that in many places that Chazal allude to the Torah as a wife. In Yevamos Amud Aleph, the Gemara says, Kama toiva isha she'atorah nimshala ba. Kama toiva Torah she'atorah nimshala be'isha. A wife is compared to a woman is compared to a wife. We are married to the Torah HaKadosha. When it says, don't commit adultery, what does that mean? Don't go after other Torahs. Don't go and try to copy from the Goyim. Don't learn from the Goyim. We have everything we need right here with our Torah. There's only one Torah in the world. Don't copy the minhagim of the Goyim. Don't try to be fooled by other Torahs. And there's so many out there. There's only one way to operate the machine called man. It's called the Torah. It's the manual for living. And it was written by the designer and producer, HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. Don't commit adultery. Don't go elsewhere. Don't look elsewhere. You have everything you need right here. Loi tignov. Don't steal. So we don't steal. But what can we do? The Gemara says in Marabas Lakuf Samechei Rov HaOlam Begezel. Most of the people of the world stumble on this issue. Maybe in matters of interest, maybe the business dealings weren't 100% perfect, straight, at all times. The Gemara says most people stumble on this issue. So how far do you have to go to make sure you don't? The Chafetz Chaim once went to the post office in his city in Radim, and he bought a stamp, and then he tore it and threw it to the garbage. The guy who just sold him the stamp looked at him, he said, I never saw anything like this before. What are you doing? And the Chafetz Chaim explained, I was sitting at home before and I was thinking of sending a letter. But then somebody came to visit me and the guy was from the same city that I was planning to send the letter to. So I asked him if he can carry the letter for me and he agreed. So then I was thinking perhaps it's not right. I already intended to buy a stamp from the post office and to use it. Maybe I'm causing you a loss. Maybe it's called stealing, so I decided to come here, buy a stamp, and not use it. That's why I tore it and threw it to the garbage. So that's fitting for the Chafetz Chaim on his level. But we see how far he went just to make sure, Chas v'chalila, he doesn't stumble on this issue of geneva, of stealing. We have to make sure we don't steal. Steal the time that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us. We have to make sure we use it for the proper things. We utilize it for Torah, for mitzvahs. If not, it's called stealing. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us so many seconds, so many minutes and hours every single day, every single week and every month. Are we sure that we're not stealing HaKadosh Baruch Hu's possessions? If you take the money that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you, it's a matana, it's a gift from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He wants you to use it for the right things. And we buy nonsense. Is that considered stealing? We have to make sure to be so careful with OPM, other people's money, other people's time. Some people send a check and they know the check will bounce. That's a terrible thing. That's called stealing. Why do they do it? They want to gain time. But that's stealing. There was once a guy in Gehenna, a wicked guy, sitting in Gehenna, a very hot experience. And after a few months, angels all dressed in white come to him and they say, sir, please, get up. You're coming with us. We're taking you out of here and you're going to Gan Eden. And this guy was beside himself. He was so happy. He started dancing. He said, this is great, but are you sure? How come? Why are you taking me away? And they told him, your son down there just gave a fat check for tzedakah. And we know the Gemara tells us in Sanhedrin Kuf Daled, Bra Mezaki Abba. When a son fulfills mitzvahs in this world, it helps the father upstairs. The father gets credit for that. Your son just gave a big sum for tzedakah, gave a nice fat check, and that goes into your account in Shamayim. So now we're moving you to Gan Eden. You are going to go to a very, very special place, and they take him there, and he's so grateful, he's so happy. And for the next 3-4 days, he enjoys the heavenly glow and the Kodesh Baruch Hu's glory. And he's with all the tzaddikim, and suddenly after 4 days, angels all wearing black come to him and they say, "Sir, you're coming with us. Come now." He says, "But why? That's it? It's over?" "Yes, we're going to take you back to hell." "Well, what happened? I thought that big mitzvah that my son did, that helped me to get me out of hell." And they say, "Yes, but what can we do? The check bounced." Some people do this b'shita, intentionally, to make sure they gain time, that they don't have to pay their bill. That's a terrible thing. It's called stealing. Rebbe from Brisk used to say, "How is it that we look around and we see so many people stealing? How can it be?" He said, it goes back to the parents, to the grandparents. The grandfather was very frum, but he perhaps once looked in a sefer, he saw a nice chiddush. He saw an idea in a book, and he said it to others, but he didn't quote the book. He said, "This is mine." He stole. If he stole in that manner, his sons already are thieves. And the grandsons will go and they will rob the bank. The Gemara says in Baba Kama Kuf Yutes, "Kol hagoizel fruta mechaveiroi." A person takes a dime. He steals one dime from his friend. It's as if it's compared to stealing his soul. How careful do we have to be? And we see a perfect example to how careful we have to be. In the Gemara in Tanis Kaf Gimel Amud Aleph, where the Gemara tells us about Abba Chilkiah, who was a very chashuv person, great man. He was the grandson of Choni Amager. And he was so special, he was such a tzaddik that if there was a drought, the Chachamim used to send people to him and ask him, "Please daven for us, it should rain." And in fact, once there was a drought, and they sent him very important, distinguished group of rabbis to ask him, "Please daven for us." And they came to his house, and he wasn't there. His wife said, "He's in the field, he's working." So they went to the field, and he was on a ladder picking some apples. So they said, "Abba Chilkiah, Shalom Aleichem." And he didn't answer. So they said again, "Shalom Aleichem." And he didn't answer again. So they tried again, and again, no answer. So they just waited until he finally, after a few hours, got off from the ladder, and he came over to them. And he said, "Shalom Aleichem, rabbis, how can I help you?" So they said, "We were here a few hours already, and we came to you, and we said, Shalom Aleichem, and you didn't answer. Why did you respond? Why didn't you answer us?" And Abba Chilkiah said, "Well, I'm an employee. I was hired for the day. If I'm going to start talking to these important rabbis, it's going to take a few seconds. That's perhaps one apple less that I will owe my employer. That's called stealing. And I can't do that." How careful do we have to be with other people's money, with other people's time, with our own money, and certainly with our own time. Don't steal. The Gemara says that most people stumble on this. We have to make sure that we are not one of those people. Don't bear false witness against your neighbor, and that in essence says, don't lie. Why shouldn't you lie? Because sheker en raglayim. Truth doesn't have legs. The Gemara explains in Shabbos Kuf Dalet, the sheker is spelled Shin Kuf Reish. Shin has only one leg. It's a very shaky base that it stands on. The Kuf only has one leg. And the Reish only has one leg. As opposed to Emes, the truth. Emes has a very wide base. It's very stable. Aleph is spelled with two legs. Mem is spelled with one wide base. And the Taf has, again, two legs. So it stays and it will last. Ultimately, when one lies, he will always regret it. You regret it. Sefer HaChinuch and Mitzvah Ayin Dalet explains that all the halachos, the gedolim, the siyagim, the chumos that we have, all the fences that we erect around the mitzvah, not to stumble, not to transgress an avera, it's all rabbinic. except for the halchak, except for the fence to be erect far away from lying in order not to stumble on lying. That is the oraisa. As the pasuk says, midvar sheker tirhak. The pasuk instructs us to stay away from lying. It doesn't say don't lie. It says stay away, far away from lying. And Sefer HaChinuch goes on to explain that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is called Kel Emes, God of truth. And we are commanded to walk in His ways. So if we do walk in His ways, for those people who only speak only Emes, only truth, the bracha will be found with them. But those people who say the opposite of truth, so then the opposite of bracha will be found with them. The Mesilas Yesharim, the Ramchal in chapter 11 says that in Pirkei Avos we learn that the world stands on three pillars, on the Emes, on the Din, and on the Shalom. So if one doesn't use Emes, he in essence is taking away a pillar that the world stands on, and now the world is pretty shaky. However, if one only uses truth, only uses Emes, he sustains the world, he's Mekayim the world. Now the world can be stable once again. In Masechet Sanhedrin, Tzadi Zayin Amud Aleph, we learn about Rav Tavyumi. Rav Tavyumi used to say that even if you give me all the gold and silver in the world, I would never change from my word. He would never say anything which wasn't true. And once he got to this town, the name of the city was Kushta. Kushta means Emes. And that was a very special city because nobody used to lie in that city, and therefore, Malach HaMaves couldn't go in there, wasn't able to rule over that city. Nobody used to die in that city. So when they really got old and they had enough of life, they used to step outside of the border of the city, and then the angel of death, Malach HaMavet, would be able to grab them, take their soul. So this was a very special place. Everybody says the truth at all times. So Rav Tavyumi decided to stay there. And he married a lady from town. He had two sons. But there was once, somebody was knocking on the door. It was his neighbor, and she says to him, "Is your wife around?" His wife was just taking a shower, so he figured it's perhaps not sneistic to tell her that my wife is washing her hair now. So he said, "My wife went out to the store. She'll be back in a few minutes." That night, both his sons died. And the people from town came to him the next morning and they said, "Hey, what happened here? This doesn't happen by us. Something must have happened. What did you do?" And he said, "I changed from the truth." And they told him, "Please get out of the city. We don't want you to invite death to come here." So we look around and we see so much lying, so much dishonesty. There's no truth. Very hard to find it. Is there anything positive we can say? Perhaps we can. Because on the same page as the previous story in the Gemara in Sanhedrin, Tzadi Zayin Amud Aleph, the Gemara says, if you want to know when Mashiach is coming, the generation that Ben David is coming, there are a few signs that you should look for. One of the signs is that Emes Tehe Ne'ederes. Truth will be absent, as the pasuk in Ishaya says, Vatehi Ha'emes Ne'ederes. And the truth will be absent. So perhaps we can say one positive thing. Mashiach is surely on his way. Lo yisachamod. Don't covet nothing of your neighbors. His wife, his car, his house, his laptop, nothing. And Rabbeinu Chaim Paltiel from the Rishonim, he was a Talmid Chaver Chavrusa, to the Maharami Rutenberg, he says, Afilu al hachimud hezhir, Shafilu she'eino oise shum hefsed. Kodesh Baruch Hu tells us not to covet, even though it doesn't cause damage. Nobody knows what I really desire in my heart, and it doesn't cause any damage to my friend. But we are supposed to be pure and elevated. The definition of Kadosh, holy nation, means separated and elevated. And a holy person doesn't have coveting in his heart. A person that truly believes that everything that happens to him happens from Shamayim, and it's all good, and it's all coming from a Kodesh Baruch Hu. He also believes that everything he has is what he needs to have. If everything I have now is what I have, that means that is what I need for my service of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because otherwise If HaKadosh Baruch Hu really needed me to have more, I would have more. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave me only this, this is what I need. And you're allowed to ask for more. You're allowed to daven. But as long as what you have now is what you have to be happy with it and don't look elsewhere. Because if HaKadosh Baruch Hu really wanted you to have it or thought you need to have it, you would have. What we have is what we need for the service of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because everything that happens to us is be'hashgacha pratis. HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows how to conduct His world and how to distribute the money. We have to trust HaKadosh Baruch Hu to know that everything that happens for a reason. And it's all good. The Mother says, then, Ra yoyred milmala. There's nothing bad that comes from up there. It's all good. Eloi Sachamo, don't covet, is the last of the 10 commandments because everything is included in it. One will never transgress the first 9 commandments if he doesn't covet something. Coveting leads to everything. It's the root of all evil. Rabbeinu Saadia Gaon says that if one makes sure to be happy with what he has and not to covet his friend's possession, he will never transgress the other 9 averos, the other 9 commandments. But the Ibn Ezra asks, how is it that the Torah can legislate emotions? You want to tell me not to covet? This is something that I feel inside. It's one of my emotions. You can't really tell me how to feel. And the Ibn Ezra says that's not true. We absolutely can't tell you how to feel. The Ibn Ezra says there was a simple guy from a tiny little village. Does he ever dream of one day he'll be able to get married to the queen? Of course not. He knows it's out of his league. He may admire her actions, her beauty, but he knows he'll never marry her. It's not shayach. It's not for him. If we train ourselves to know that what our friends have is out of our league, it's like the queen. It has nothing to do with me. That's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted him to have. And if he really wanted me to have it, I would. We can definitely train ourselves from a young age to know this. And the Beis Halevi explains a little differently. Says the Beis Halevi, a person had a tremendous desire to get something, had a taiva for something, and the only way you can obtain it is to walk at night on this frozen lake. So he did. And then as he's walking, he fell, he stumbled, and his leg fell, and the ice broke. He fell, his leg fell inside. And now this guy is terrified. He's sort of stuck. And it's night, nobody's there. Who knows what's going to happen to him? Will he survive till the morning? That immediately cancels the desire that he had. The fear of the frozen lake immediately erases the desire that he had. Says the Beis Halevi, we are supposed to feel the same things about what HaKadosh Baruch Hu instructs us that it's not for us. Divrei Isu, forbidden things, Averos, for our friend's possession. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to us, don't covet, so we have to feel that just like I was afraid of a frozen lake getting stuck there in the middle of the night, so too I'm supposed to be afraid of a Dvar Isu, what HaKadosh Baruch Hu instructed me not to do. That should be much more frightening than just some cold water. So we can definitely train ourselves and legislate emotions. And perhaps if one doesn't covet, the HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to do for him measure for measure, because in Parashat Kisis, the HaKadosh Baruch Hu promises, V'lo yachamoid ish es artecha, and nobody will covet your land. The enemies, the goyim, won't covet your land. You'll be able to sit and enjoy yourself, learn Torah, fulfill my mitzvahs. Don't covet, and they won't covet what you have. And Reb Samson Nefal Hirsch explains, don't covet is the stamp of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why? Because a human king can only dictate, don't kill, don't steal. And if you do, we'll find you and we're gonna, who knows what we're gonna do to you. But only a God, only HaKadosh Baruch Hu can say, don't covet, which is something which is found in the heart. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Borchen Kloyot Valev, because only HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows what's in a person's heart. So So therefore, that is a stamp of this is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the Ten Commandments start with talking about something that has to do with the heart. Anoichi Hashem Elokecha. I am the God who took you out of Egypt. You have to believe. Believing is in the heart. And the last commandment out of the 10 is Lo Yisachamod. Don't covet, which also has to do with the heart. We have to purify our hearts. We have to bring Kedusha into our hearts. That is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu really wants, because the Sanhedrin Kuf Vav, the Gemara says, and this is found in the Zohar as well, Rachmana Libabai. HaKadosh Baruch Hu desires our hearts. It all starts and ends with the heart. Is your heart with HaKadosh Baruch Hu? And if it is with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we will be Zoiche, Mirza Hashem, to fulfill the entire Torah, 613 mitzvahs. We should be able to purify our hearts and bring Kedusha into our lives and fulfill the entire Torah, be'ahava, with love. Rabbeinu HaRosh, one of the Rishonim, the Rosh on the Torah, says that in the 10 Commandments there are 613 mitzvahs. The first word in the 10 Commandments is Anoichi, starts with an Aleph, and the last word in the 10 Commandments is Re'echa. That ends with a Chaf, and between those two there is 613 mitzvahs to allude that everything is included. All the 613 mitzvahs that we have are included with the 10 Commandments. We have 613 mitzvahs from the Torah. We have 7 mitzvahs, the Rabbanan, and together that comes up to 620, and 620 mitzvahs in Gematria has the same numerical value as Keser, a crown. And when one wears the crown of Torah, when he fulfills 613 mitzvahs from the Torah and 7 mitzvahs the Rabbanan, he wears a beautiful crown, a crown given to us by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, a crown we should all wear, a crown we should be proud that we have received from the King of all kings, Melech Malchei HaMlachim, who chose us to fulfill his Torah. It is said about Rabbi Yonasan Eibschitz that once during davening, one of the people who were standing behind him noticed that Rabbi Yonasan wasn't saying, in the series of brachos we say in the morning, he doesn't say, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam shelo asani goy. Thank you, Kodesh Baruch Hu, for not creating me a goy. And the guy who was davening behind him was wondering about that. How can it be? Rabbi Yonasan Eibschitz, the greatest in the generation about 350 years ago, he doesn't say this bracha. So he figured I probably didn't hear him. The following morning, again, he stood behind the Rebbe and he was listening to make sure. And again, he said, he noticed that Rabbi Yonasan wasn't saying that bracha. So he tells some of his friends and they say, what are you talking about? It can't be. The next morning, they all stand behind Rabbi Yonasan and they listen. And Rabbi Yonasan says all the brachas, but he skips that bracha. And they didn't know what to do. After all, this is the greatest in the generation. What do you do? So they went to the Beis Din in town and they told him. The Beis Din didn't know what to do. Can't subpoena him. They can't tell him to come to them. So the Beis Din themselves went to Rabbi Yonasan and they said to him, Yelamdeinu Rabbeinu, our rabbi, our teacher, tell us, is it true? The rabbi doesn't say, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam shelo asani goy in shul in the morning. Rabbi Yonasan just told him, it's true. I'll tell you. When I get up in the morning, I open my eyes and I realize I'm alive, and I realize that Kodesh Baruch Hu selected me from 7 billion people in the world, and he gave me his Torah. I get so excited. Asher bochar banu mikol ha'amim, he selected us from all the nations in the world, v'notzon lanu es Torato, and he gave us his Torah. I get so excited. I jump out of bed. I start dancing every single morning, and I say, thank you, Kodesh Baruch Hu, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam. Thank you for not making me a goy. So I already said the bracha at home. When I come back to shul, I can't say the bracha again. That's the bracha in vain. So no, I don't say it in shul. I say it at home. That is how we have to feel. And the Taryag mitzvahs, 613 mitzvahs are represented in the Aseres Adibois, the 10 Commandments. It's all one. And together with the 7 mitzvahs, the Rabbanon, the rabbinic 7 mitzvahs, we have a crown. a crown that we should each wear proudly and say thank you to Hashem for giving us this special, spiritual, holy crown.